Yo, what's good? You're listening to the one, the only Everyday Superpower, where we talk body language, non-verbal communication, game, relationships, everything in between, alright? Definitely talking body language today. We're going to be talking about your height, but not necessarily your genetic height. The way you manipulate your height when engaging with particular people, and how this works and why we do it, and why, if you don't consciously do it, you might be able to apply this to get a more favorable result in your conversations. Okay, so essentially it's a means of shrinking the body. If we were to approach that in a fear response, we could consider that a flight response, or potentially a freeze response, given that you are hiding in plain sight if you were to make yourself seem smaller. But we'll get into the details of that. So what we do from time to time, or what we can consciously do in order to create a more favorable communication with somebody, is take a lower position relative to that other position, which you can shrink and lower your self physically in relation to them. The head shrunk into the shoulders. You can sit down as opposed to standing. You can, if you're on a set of stairs, you can take the step down. And of course, take into consideration what I'm saying here is going to really accent and concentrate on the making oneself smaller. You could look at the opposite aspect of this and apply it in the opposite sense, alright? So that's a bit of food for thought, but I'll probably do another video based on heightening oneself and the power behind that. So it's a means of relinquishing dominance to another person, alright? So when we go on a date, let's say, a man generally stands in higher ground and stands taller than the woman whom he's dating, and that can be deemed as not only the dominant position but a territorial position, purely as you're taking up more space, and what takes up more space takes up more territory, you see. When you are on that date, you may be served by a waiter who will either stand upright as you both sit whilst taking your order, potentially creating a little bit of an uncertain feeling towards them, or they may actually crouch down to your eye line, creating a more favourable and submissive position. That'll definitely be a lot better, and that's definitely in reference to what we're talking to today. So if you see that what they've done is relinquished that dominance in order to create the appropriate relation of the job they have. They are a server, they're there to serve, right? So body lowering will shrink the size of the overall profile. Okay, it creates a submissive stance, which isn't the worst thing in the world. A lot of men feel uncomfortable at the idea of taking a submissive role, or even being anything in regards to the word submissive, but you best believe it's all about balance, and you're not going to be the dominant force in every communication you have. It's just not possible. You could talk to the same person twice and have to play a particular role, two different roles in each communication, one being a dominant, one being a submissive, dependent on the circumstance, the communication, and so on and so forth. So it's not to be shrugged off. And when you are speaking to somebody who is in an authoritarian position, if the police stop you and want to ask you questions, or if you have to report to the boss, it's not going to put you in good favour with their unconscious mind, given that you play, at least on the physical realm, the dominant position. It'll be in your best favour to you know, make yourself smaller in the face of what, as far as the hierarchy you exist in that particular time is concerned, the dominant force, alright? You don't always have to be the big man. It creates trust, yeah? And it creates trust because you're not putting on this masculine front for whichever purpose. And a man that can play this role shows comfort in existing within the realm of submission. And to be in submission is to be in the realm of learning, to be in the realm of apprentice, to be in the realm of development, okay? If you're not already there at the finish line, you are gonna have to have that beginner's mindset at some point, and this body language exemplifies it quite well. It implies that you are to take on a lesser role, and you give the role of authority indirectly to the other individual, at least at that very moment in time. So if you are in a classroom, if you are a student and you don't want to be chosen to answer the question, you will find people making themselves smaller and lowering themselves in the face of that potential threat in order to highlight those whom haven't taken that on. And then if you look even deeper into the process, those who really want to answer the question, I mean, at least in high school, I think it tends to become a little more easygoing later on. But my experience is in high school, at least, you would hold your hand up if you wanted to answer a question, which put you head and shoulders above the rest, so to speak. So you heightened yourself, your actual physiology, in order to become more dominant and to be ordered to be chosen out of those whom didn't. Okay? I mean, this height situation you will see correlate strongly, right? If you look at positions of power, CEOs of companies, the presidency and so forth, you will find that there is a correlation between somebody's height and the position of dominance and authority they exist within. That's just the way it goes. So if you can manipulate your height to be up or down, dependent on the circumstance, you can see how it can come into, how you could strategize it really well, depending on what you're after. Whether it be to comfort and support those above you, or whether it be to teach and care for those whom are in the lesser position, if you to do the vice versa. Alright? I mean, me personally, I feel myself doing this. I feel uncomfortable when standing loud and proud and tall and dominant in certain situations when I am with those who have more power in the realm I am in communication with at that moment in time, because I don't want to be seen as anywhere near potentially threatening. Alright? We spoke on the 48 laws of power. Law number 1, never outshine the master. You must always allow your master to be comfortably superior. And if you're doing so in verbal communication and in the workplace hierarchy, you can also do so in your physical body, alright? Create a non-threatening aura, a readiness to submit. As we've spoken, it is submissive body language, but you can't, contrary to what many people say, you can't just walk through life dominating absolutely everything. There will be times where you need to learn. There will be times where you need to appease others whom are above and beyond you in the particular field you are wanting to explore. Alright. Of course, on a side note, This can represent fear, as it can be linked with a freeze response, if not a flight response. Given the certain scenario, you have to pay attention to the cluster and the context as to where this behavior exists and manifests. Because if you're to make yourself smaller, you're to make yourself less visible. And if you're to make yourself less visible, you have to think, why do they want to make themselves less visible in this certain situation? All right, I'm signing out. Peace.